I'm Owen Casey Stevens, and this is the story of that time I jumped onto a moving train, aka that one of many times I was really, really, really stupid. This story occurs in the 1990s. It was my very first trip to Gen Con. I lived in Oklahoma. Gen Con at the time was in Milwaukee. And having gotten together the funds for the trip, which was supposed to advance my career, and in fairness, it did, uh, I decided to take a train. Now, there were some things I didn't know about taking a train at the time. The first was that if you live in Oklahoma and you want to go to Milwaukee, which is significantly north of Oklahoma, you have to start on a on a passenger train by going south to Dallas, because the only passenger route from Oklahoma to anywhere is to go south to Dallas first. That meant that my total travel time was around 2 days. I also didn't know at the time that if a passenger train and a commercial cargo train have a disagreement about which one of them gets a piece of track, and I'm not talking about a wreck, I'm talking about scheduling in advance for a delay, the cargo train goes first. So we had a slight delay, I believe, due to brakes on the train. That put us a little behind. That meant that suddenly we weren't on our slot for every track. That meant that we were more and more and more behind. So at one point, we stopped at a train station, like trains do, and I decided to call home and let my wife know that I was going to be at least a day late getting into Milwaukee, maybe 2 days late. I didn't have a cell phone, so calling from the train station was the only way I could communicate with her, and I sort of hoped that on top of everything else, she could let the hotel know. They warned us that the train was only going to stop for 15 minutes. There was a line for the phone. I decided to go ahead and wait for that whole line. They blew the first whistle. I knew there would be two or three. I made the call. They call the all aboard. I'm finishing my call. I hear this noise, and I realize that the train has begun to move. Now, I'm standing on the platform, right? The train is right there. So even though it's begun to move, I'm not that worried at this point. I was in a car that had two little benches that would slide into a bed. The conductor knew my name. He was standing there yelling at me at the door to my train car. So I hurriedly told my wife, hey, I got to go. The train's moving. I hear my wife say, the train is what? As I hang up the receiver, and I run over to the train. Trains pick up speed fast. That is, in fact, one of the whole advantages of a train. So even though when I hung up, the train was moving literally this quickly, by the time I got over to where the train was, it was moving at, I would say, a fast walk, maybe a jog. And the conductor is specifically telling me, wait, get another train. And instead, I leap for and grab the handles, and the conductor grabbed my lapels, I had a jacket, and pulled me up onto the train. This was an incredibly stupid thing for me to do, because in the time it took for me to make the decision that I'm going to jump onto the train to the time that I'm on the train, it went from moving about this fast to moving at a running speed. And within a second and a half, it was at a faster than a human being is going speed. We were at like 30, 40 miles an hour within a few seconds. It was really amazing. And you get a great view of it if you're hanging halfway out of a train with the conductor trying to haul your 400-pound ass into the train car so that you don't fall backwards and say, onto the tracks. The conductor succeeded. I was using the railings, so I helped. He got me up the stairs. I apologized and said I did not realize that the train would start moving that quickly. The conductor accepted my apology, although I'm reasonably sure what he wanted to do was boot my butt back down the stairs and out the car so he didn't have to deal with me anymore. I did my best to be a model passenger from that point on. I did not complain about the delays. I put in my request to go to the dining car early, did not cause any trouble. I did not know if you're supposed to tip a train conductor, but I did, because he might have saved my life. I also might have just bounced off it and rolled away, but there's this gap between the platform and the train, and I've seen enough bad news stories on what happens if you end up in that gap while the train's moving to have not wanted to take this lightly. That was far from the only experience I had on this particular trip. That was just the only train-related one. We actually took the train into Chicago, and then I had to take a bus from Chicago to Milwaukee to get to my hotel. And because I was only allowed 2 carry-ons on the train, one of my carry-ons was an enormous backpack. And I mean hey, I'm the Sherpa for 12 people going up a mountain kind of backpack. And it was like 3 feet deep and stuck up to here. It was huge. Friends of mine at the time have seen this thing. I don't have it anymore because it exploded. And so when we got off the bus, I got up, I picked up my backpack and I put it on. The problem is that I was not looking around carefully enough, and there was a short woman who had just stepped up to within a reasonable range, like 3-4 feet back from me. And when I put on my backpack, I hit her with it and knocked her knees over tea kettle onto the ground. I turned around in horror. She's laying on the ground looking surprised, and I decide, hey, I should help her up. I should apologize. So I lean down to pick her up. Now, her significant other was with her, and he had missed the accidental event and turned around just in time to see a big white guy looming over his girlfriend, who was on the ground looking stunned, and I was doing this. Now, I was trying to take her hands and help her up, but his instinct, and I actually appreciate this, was to pop me one in the nose really fast, and blood went everywhere. And as he prepared to pop me a second time, she was like, no, it was an accident, he was trying to help me up. And he was like, oh man, I'm so sorry. And I'm like, no, it's my fault, I knocked her over. I'm sorry, I should see where I'm going. We actually all left in a really good mood. The blood came down. I was wearing a gray shirt, lighter than this one, and therefore was covered in blood. And at that point, I was talking funny. So I show up at my hotel around 11:59 on the last day I can get there and not lose my room reservation because we're a day and a half late. And I go up to the front desk, and the lady at the front desk is looking down at a computer, and she's like, hi, can I help you? And I'm like, yes, I have a reservation. And she looks up, and she's like, what's the, oh, God, because there's blood. And I have mentioned in one of my other videos that when I get a nosebleed, it's a gusher. Now, this had stopped, but I was still covered in blood. So she insisted on having me sit down. She got their medical kit out. The house detective showed up to ask if I was okay. I explained that this was all my fault and it was just a nosebleed and it was actually all right. She sent someone running into their little diner because they were about to close to grab me a sandwich. I distinctly remember she asked me if I had any allergies, which I thought was really nice for someone who had a large bloody man show up at the last possible moment asking if he could have his room. They got me settled. They were really, really nice. They checked on me the next day, and it was my first Gen Con. I had a great time. By the next day, my shirt and stuff had been washed in the sink. It was pinkish for a while, but I didn't have to wear it again. I just packed it away. I put it on air conditioner to dry. And the rest of the convention went pretty smoothly, all things considered. But the most important part of this, if you take away anything from this story, is if your train has started moving and you're not already on it, it's too late. Wait. Whatever it is, wait. This is a story about me going to a convention, a gaming convention. It was supposed to advance my career. It has. I am a professional game writer now. If you want to see some of the work I do, I currently have a 52 and 52 subscription, which provides you with a game product a week every week for the year of 2020. We've done 11 products in 11 weeks so far, and we release each of these products to our subscribers in 4 game systems, 1 each: Pathfinder 1st and 2nd Edition, Starfinder, and 5e. You get all of those at the same price. It's $50 for the whole thing. So if you're so bored that you're looking at my story times, maybe you should pick up the 52 and 52 game subscription and see whether or not that gives you some reading material to get you through a long shut-in period. Everyone be safe, and this has been Owen K.C. Stevens with Storytime.